Hey everyone, welcome to Curtin Call. I'm Kevin Curtin. I'm here today in my home state of Connecticut with the very talented Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, and a third one on the way. Now, we all know Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, obviously one of the highest grossing films of the year, beat out the first one in the box office worldwide, get a third one on the way. What's been the highlight of this journey so far for you?
I think for me, the biggest highlight is probably sharing the whole experience with my brother. We've been working on different things in various capacities since we were kids, and so I mean, so much of it is great. It really is kind of a dream come true in a lot of ways. But doing it with him and kind of side by side, or at least having a front row seat for all of it. That's kind of been my favorite part.
Yeah, absolutely. So you play the role of Kraglin, Yondu's second in command, and you're also doing Rocket's motion reference work.
That's right.
So what's most challenging for you doing dual roles on set?
Really it was just a matter of there are about 4 scenes in this movie that Kraglin and Rocket are both in. And those scenes can be really tricky to shoot because we have to, shoot them in a couple of different extra ways because I'm trying to do both parts, and it just takes more focus than acting even usually does, which I think is focus is kind of the main thing when you're acting anyway. So I just have to get myself in the right headspace, and I have to take good care of myself. I can't be tired on those days or anything like that, but it's like anything else. It's my job. It's like I just do both of them separately, and in the end, it works. I hope. Yeah.
So Guardians 1 and 2, I feel like they do a great job of balancing the serious tones with the really laugh out loud moments. And I feel like your character Kraglin, kind of the same thing. What's your favorite part of playing Kraglin?
Well, I think it was cool in this, to play a character who was able to have an arc, was really interesting to me, particularly because I didn't really know who the character was in the first movie. It's like we shot it in so many. We shot the first movie in many different ways, and we shot different aspects of Kraglin, and he didn't really become a fleshed out character until the edit. A lot of it is he'd been played much more like a maniac. I didn't really know if he was much more of a bad guy, but then when I saw the final edit of the first movie, I got a sense for who he was, and then being able to put that together in the second movie, and then build and be like, oh, I know who this character is. That's what's most fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So James Gunn, obviously, director of the film, is your older brother.
Yes.
He's got a very unique style of writing and directing, as we all know. What do you admire about him most, professionally and personally?
Oh, gosh. Professionally, the list goes on and on. Personally, I struggle to think of anything. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Professionally, he is really the most maniacally prepared director that I think anyone could ever hope to work with. And pretty much everybody you talk to up and down the line, actors, crew members, studio people, he has the whole thing worked out, He does so much work in pre-production. And when we get to set, he tells the actors exactly what it is we're about to shoot. That takes an astounding amount of mental energy to keep all those balls in the air. And so I just have a ton of admiration for that. And then to do it within the framework of you're telling a story that is, it's like you're not just a pencil pusher. You're keeping the balls in the air, but you're also trying to tell this, story and make a piece of art. It's amazing. And personally, I think I'll even relate it to work wise. I think is that he manages to also be a heck of a lot of fun on set, and to the other people, he keeps things sort of light and low key. he really is incredibly good at what he does. You know, he's a crazy person.
Yeah. So in Volume 2, we obviously have some Hollywood titans, Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. Any special memories on set with either of those guys?
I remember a really funny moment in rehearsals when Chris Pratt and Kurt Russell are doing a scene together, and it's the first scene where it's just the two of them, and James is there and says, "What?" It's Chris's line, Star-Lord's line, and he's about to say it, and James says, "Okay, and now you ask him what you've been wanting to ask him since the moment you saw him." And Chris pauses and says, "What was it like to work on Big Trouble in Little China?" Which I thought was very funny. But Kurt was great. You know, Sly I just met, mostly doing the press junket. I saw him on set one day.
Yeah.
He was so enthusiastic, and God, it's amazing. You know, it's my job is to pretend like I'm not geeking out over the big actors, but yeah, it's pretty hard not to be freaked out when it's like Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. You know,
that's great. So, who are some of the actors that inspired you early on in your career, and maybe to this day?
Oh gosh, you know, my biggest influences as actors are old school actors. I like, you know, the people who I've flat out borrowed from the most are like Buster Keaton and an actor named Eddie Bracken, who was in the old Preston Sturges movies. I've liked a lot of his work. I love John Cazale. I love a lot of the old school kind of character actors from when I was a kid who would pop up in one thing after another, like Brian Dennehy or J.T. Walsh or Charles Durning. And I consider myself in a lineage, or my old friend, the late great Edward Herman. You know, I consider myself in a lineage with those guys, who I would like to see myself as having a career where I could be plugged into all kinds of different stuff. You know, I certainly go a little more comedy heavy than some of those guys do, but oh well, yeah.
And what film changed your life as a young man? You know, before you got into.
What film changed my life? Gosh, that's. I'm trying to think of.
Maybe
what
a couple.
The best answer to that is. Yeah, I mean, when I was really young, I had older brothers, so I was seeing everything a little younger than a lot of my peers were. Like I was seeing The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 when I was a little kid. You know, Taxi Driver and all the Scorsese movies. When I was in high school-ish, I really started to discover the Robert Altman movies of the 70s, and those probably changed my perspective of storytelling and art more than anything else. Movies like Long Goodbye and California Split and Nashville, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Thieves Like Us. I love those movies. They're so different, and probably as a collection are probably my favorite little group of movies by any filmmaker.
So, when you're on set, you know, do you have any specific routines that you get into before, you know, you break into character with Kraglin or whatever else you're doing, or is every movie and every role different for you?
They're all different, but I think when I'm working, I try to be, you know, I try to do all my preparation before, so I know my lines, I know the part, I have a sort of visual image of what's going on in the scene. I have a sort of rough draft in my head of how the scene sort of works. Yeah. And then I try to just get into the frame of mind that my character would be in. I don't people, you know, it's not a it's not a thing where I'm like doing anything crazy or too specific. Sure. It's just more a point of view where if it's like whatever my character is going to be feeling, I try to have that really accessible. Yeah. But No, I think, as long as I'm thinking in character, I'm in the right place.
So we all know that you're going to be a part of the Avengers Infinity War series, and just out of curiosity, what does it mean to you to be involved in such a massive, series like that?
It's a trip. I mean, it's like I think they're like the biggest movies ever made. So
Yeah.
and we're shooting 2 of them back to back, for the most part, and it's been a great experience. I love, I think it would have been a lot more terrifying if I hadn't already done 2 Marvel movies, and I go in and I know, I know Kevin Feige and Leo and Victoria, and then the Russos have been super welcoming, and they're really nice guys and cool guys and great to work with. So all the new people that I've met have been very cool, for lack of a more specific word, to work with, and so that's made it pretty great.
Yeah. So what are you most proud of to date in your professional career, and what role do you think you've related to the best that you've played?
I think I'm most proud that I'm still here and still working. I mean, the entertainment industry can be brutal.
Sure.
And I've been doing it for 20 years, and I've had, I did really well, and then I had a pretty big downturn for a little while before I started doing well again. And to just kind of stick with it is difficult. Before I started, I knew how hard it was to be a professional actor, and I always thought that if I could just make my living doing it, that I would be happy. And so I am ambitious. I do want other things out of my career, but I also keep that in the back of my mind that, like, I am doing what I love, and I am doing what I set out to do. So I try to just be grateful for that first. But what I'm most, I mean, it's weird because in the moment I didn't quite know it, but I think that playing Kirk for all those years and having so many people love it and respond to it has probably been what I'm most proud of. He's not the character I identify with most, other than, to the world, I guess he is, because he's what I'm most recognized for most often. But I've played characters that I love. I just did this crazy horror movie, The Belko Experiment. I love the character I played in that. You try to love all of your characters in one way or another. It's the best way to the best way to work, I think.
So if Kirk met Kraglin in real life,
right?
What do you think that interaction would be?
It's funny because they're the same. Like they're both, they're both me in some aspects. So I guess there's a similarity, but they couldn't be more different in my mind.
Sure.
I think Kraglin is really measured. Kraglin's somebody who thinks very, very carefully before he speaks.
Sure.
Kirk never thinks before he speaks at all. I think Kraglin would probably just kick his ass, but I don't know.
That's great. I want to talk to you about, or maybe have you talk about some upcoming projects. I understand you're writing a movie, or you wrote a movie already, and if you want to maybe talk about that.
Yeah, that's just something I'm hoping to. I did write a movie that I'm hoping to get made at some point.
Yeah.
My schedule's pretty full though, which is good. It's like I think I've got 2 more movies lined up that I'm doing after Avengers, and then hopefully Guardians 3 at some point. I don't know when we're shooting that yet, but yeah, I'm definitely an actor, but I have projects here and there that I would like to get off the ground at some point.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll be looking forward to all that.
Thanks.
So what's your advice for all the dreamers and all the actors, aspiring actors out there that maybe aspire to do what you're doing now?
I think that, I always hear my brothers say this, and it really is the best piece of advice.
Yeah.
Finish what you start. Let things be bad if they're going to be bad, but finish them. Because that's kind of the biggest thing that I think ends up, people that I know who've said that they're aspiring actors or writers or directors or anything, who 10 years later are in a new line of work, it's because they didn't actually do anything. Not even necessarily because they weren't talented, they just didn't finish. So I think finishing is the big thing. I think that I think that looking at it not as a dream but as a profession is really helpful. I don't, acting is not my dream; it's my job.
Right.
And so I know that it's both. Like it is a dream job, and so it's hard not to think of it like that.
Sure.
But I really don't. Once you start doing it and you're in the process of it, it's like you have different tasks and there's work to do. And if you're not looking at it as work, if you're really sort of shocked and dazzled by the whole thing, you're probably not doing your best job.
Yeah, very good. So if you could work with any director out there who you haven't worked with already, who would you work with and why?
I mean,
or maybe a couple. Maybe a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think off the top of my head, like I don't know why I wouldn't pick Scorsese, because how many more, who knows how many more movies he has left in him. So I don't know. I think it would be probably dumb not to pick him.
Yeah.
But I would love to work. I mean, I don't know where. I'd love to work with Alfonso Cuarón. I'd love to do a Mike Lee movie somehow. I don't know how that would happen, but I would love to do that. I would love to, I'd love to work with Catherine Bigelow. I mean.
Sure.
There's
a long
too many.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's too many.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to hit you with what I call the trifecta music question here.
Okay, good.
I want to know your favorite hip hop song, your favorite slow jam, and your favorite song to rock out to.
Okay.
Another tough one. But.
My favorite hip hop song, I mean, I'm a huge hip hop fan.
Yeah. Me too.
And I mean, oh my gosh, let's go with. I don't know how to pick one really, but I'm just gonna go back old school to like. And let's go with Lyrics of Fury by Eric B. and Rakim. I can get behind that.
It's a good choice. All right, slow jam. Favorite slow jam.
Slow jam. Wait, what exactly constitutes a slow jam?
Maybe something by Babyface or Kelly. Or,
how about this one? How about Show and Tell? But do you know that track? That Al Wilson, right? Is that his name?
Yep, Al Wilson. Yep, great song.
Show and Tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's
jam.
a great track.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And
then your favorite rocker.
Favorite song to rock out to.
Either classic rock or contemporary, whatever you want.
Yeah. Gosh. I feel like there's so. I mean. Oh man, this is too hard for me. This is too hard for me because I'm trying to think of because I'm not a classic rock guy. Like I wouldn't choose like a Zeppelin song. I wouldn't. The songs from the '90s I'm starting to find boring, like Rage Against the Machine and Jane's Addiction and stuff is starting to that I was into back then, but it's kind of boring me now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna choose the Vaselines.
Okay.
I'm going to choose Son of a Gun by the Vaselines as my rock out song.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So we always close the show on this show with social media, where people can follow you and find you. So if you want to tell our audience here where they can look you up.
I'm at Sean Gunn on Twitter. I have a hard time getting into Twitter, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Facebook, and I'm at the Judge Gunn.
Okay.
On Instagram, which is my favorite. That's one I actually use a lot.
Very good. For this show, we're on Facebook, Curtin Call. Instagram and Twitter are at Curtin Call 87. Really appreciate the support. Sean, I want to thank you again for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time out. We really look forward to all the upcoming projects.
I appreciate it, and I want to say thank you to my live studio audience here.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Thanks again, Sean.
Sure thing, man.
It's been a pleasure.
You got it.